What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction. In this, we have the best design town in the Netherlands and therefore the world. This town better be absolutely mind blowing. Before we dive in, if you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and let's get right to it.
This is Houten. It's a town just outside of Utrecht in the Netherlands. Houten is known for being one of the best places for cycling in the whole country, which is impressive because there are a lot of great places to cycle in the Netherlands. But this is also unsurprising in a way because from the very beginning, Houten was purposefully designed with a focus on people, greenery, and slow traffic. The designers of Houten did several things to achieve that goal, but the most fundamental one is fairly simple. If you want to go somewhere within the town, you should be able to get there quickly and easily by walking or cycling. But if you want to drive, you need to go out to the ring road and take the long way around.
Oh,
This means that it will almost always be faster and more convenient to walk or
yeah.
cycle than to
I'm absolute. If that's the situation, I'm absolutely walking or cycling, bro. Because I ain't no way I'm finna take the long way. That's too much.
drive, and so,
That's
unsurprisingly,
crazy.
that's what most
That's
people do.
smart. That's smarter
About
than that.
70% of all trips within Houten are taken by bicycle, which also means that in most of the town, car volumes are extremely low.
Mm-hmm.
This simple design philosophy has made Houten not just a fantastic place to cycle, but also one of the best places to live in the Netherlands, especially for families with small children. I had heard for many years that Houten was a bicycle paradise, and I had it on my list of video topics since the beginning. But despite everything I had learned about it, I was still genuinely surprised at how nice it was to be there in person. So let me show you what I saw on my trip to what I think might just be the best designed town in the
Yeah, I need to.
Netherlands,
I need to
and
see what you
therefore,
saw.
the world.
World.
The municipality of Houten was established in the early 1800s, but when plans were drawn up for expansion in the 1970s, the village only had a population of around 4,000 people.
Oh,
Today, the population is over 50,000 people, which means that the vast majority of Houten has been built recently. From above, Houten looks like this, and it's made up of two circular sections.
huh.
The top circle was designed first and built in the 1980s. The bottom circle was a more recent expansion and built in the early 2000s, following the same basic design principles as the original.
Okay.
You can see the ring road, which goes around both areas like a figure eight. These are the only roads that are through routes for cars, shielding the neighborhoods inside from motor vehicle traffic. Near the center of each circle is a train station, which means that despite having a relatively small population, Houten has two train stations. But what Houten is most known for is its extremely safe and efficient cycling network. Houten has become so famous among urban planners that the municipality actually has an international cycling manager. And every year, hundreds of urban planners from all over the world come here to take bicycle tours and learn about how to design great cycling infrastructure.
I feel that.
I actually remember the first time I read about Houten, more than 10 years ago.
I would love to
I
hear in the comment section. What do you guys think? Like when it comes to bicycle infrastructure, you heard them say so many people are going over there to kind of see what the Netherlands have done. Do you think cycling, let's say in 60 years from now, will be something that is being done in all countries as a major way of transportation or major form of transportation? Or do you think, I mean, in 60 years, we get to the point where like we we got hovering cars and hovering bikes and stuff in that situation, and it ain't bikes ain't gonna be a thing. What do y'all think?
was reading the Wikipedia article List of Car-Free Places, and there was Houten. I couldn't believe that a town of over 30,000 people was completely car-free. And after
Oh,
about
the
5 minutes of
whole
research,
town?
I realized it wasn't. And
I
this
was
list
about
was a
to
load of
say
nonsense and contained dozens of places that weren't actually car-free in any meaningful way.
that would have been
Which is probably
insane.
why today the article is significantly shorter and called List of Car-Free Islands.
I get that.
But this confusion is somewhat understandable because while Houten is not car-free, it was designed to be autolu, a Dutch word that doesn't really have a good translation into English. In
Mm.
fact, if you type it into Google Translate, it gives you car-free, which is
Okay.
probably why it ended up on that Wikipedia article in the first place.
Okay, I get that.
Some people translate autolu as low car or car light, but I don't really think these properly get across the implications of this word in Dutch, so I prefer to use the term nearly car free, which I picked up from this
Nearly
2013
partial.
blog post by David Hembrow.
Well, there you
Autolu
go.
refers to places that prioritize walking and cycling but allow very limited access by motor vehicles, typically restricted to emergency vehicles, delivery vans, public transit, and in some cases, the cars of the people who live there. One of the first videos I ever made on this channel was about Autolu, if you'd like to hear me talk about it with a significantly worse microphone. I've been reading about Houten for years, so I can't believe it took me so long to actually visit, especially considering it's only about 45 minutes from where I live. To get to Houten,
Oh,
I took an
everything.
intercity train from Amsterdam to Utrecht Centraal, which is the busiest train station in the Netherlands.
Mhm.
About 200,000 people pass through this station every day, and it's the busiest station for people like me who are transferring to other trains. In this case,
200,000. It's so crazy, like just because like public transport is so not as big here, like the US is so car dependent. Just seeing these public transport situations and it's like it's nothing that I've ever seen personally with these two eyes if it's not on a movie, a TV show, or in these videos.
I was getting on the Sprinter train to Houten. It's always amazing to me how Dutch cities don't
I mean like
sprawl
a
by
metro, not
design.
just like a
Even though
bus. I've
Houten
seen a
is
bus.
only an 8-minute train ride from the center of Utrecht, we pass through farmers' fields on the way there, instead of a continuous sprawl of asphalt and concrete. When I got to the train station in Houten, I went to the closest exit, which happened to be the one that goes straight into a bicycle parking garage. I guess they assume, correctly, that pretty much everybody who comes here by train is
Yeah,
going to get a bicycle, so they might as well make it easy.
there you go.
I picked up an Ove Fiets, which is a type of rental bicycle available at pretty much every train station in the Netherlands that can be rented just by tapping your public
Oh,
transit card. I
that's
remember thinking
so
at the time that
dope.
this was a pretty typical bicycle parking garage at a train station, but that just goes to show how normalized all this is for me now. This would be the best bicycle parking garage in the country if it were built anywhere else. When I
Oh,
stepped outside of the train station, I literally started laughing. All of the bullshit excuses I've heard over the years of why we absolutely need car dependent suburbs all seemed completely absurd in the face of Houten.
mm,
I saw so many people cycling, from young kids to elderly people. I saw several people on mobility scooters. I saw this guy on an electric tricycle. There were dozens of people walking around this town square. There were lots of people doing their shopping, and there wasn't a car in sight. Keep in
dang.
mind that this is not a very large town, and yet there was more life and activity here than any car dependent city I've ever seen, even with 10 times the population.
That's kind of crazy to think about. Like, just like no cars in sight or very minimal cars in the city. Like, that is just, it is insane, but it looks like, yeah, the system must be working. And it must be working greatly, like, because it's got him very excited about it.
Do these people look like they're suffering in any way because there are no cars around? No,
Nah,
it's exactly the opposite. They're out here enjoying themselves,
yeah,
shopping, going for a walk, or just traveling independently because there are no cars. And all this was within 2 minutes of stepping outside of the train station. Amazing. I headed west along the main bicycle path through this beautiful park. Houten has several of these linear parks because its designers believe that every resident should be close to a park or green space. The first phase of Houten was designed with this east to west park with branches off of it. For the second phase, they designed a pentagon shaped linear park system so that every resident was close by. These parks also act like bicycle highways connecting neighborhoods together, which makes it very safe and easy to get somewhere by bicycle without having to interact with cars. I traveled through the
yeah.
park, and after exiting, I came across these houses, which highlight another interesting design feature. These row homes exit directly onto the bicycle path instead of the street, which shows you how important bicycles are to life here. Between the homes were small parking lots so that cars could park here instead of taking up space on the residential streets. Amazingly, this was the first time I saw any cars since I arrived.
Okay.
I came across a lot of other places where the houses bordered directly onto the
Dang,
bicycle path,
look at
while car
this.
parking was located in the back.
Wow.
These houses are directly connected to this tree-lined path,
That's
and the
so
front doors to the
cool.
houses exit directly onto this shared open space. The cars are parked in a shared parking
Yo.
lot on the other side of the houses and are accessed by a small street that is separate from the bicycle path network. You can imagine how nice it would be to be a kid here and just be able to
Yeah,
play outside of your house with
yeah.
all of the other kids nearby and never have to worry about cars when leaving the house to cycle to school or a friend's house or anywhere else.
And I think just as a parent, taking away that stress would be absolutely huge. You ain't got to worry about your kid getting hit by no cars. Like get hit by a bike, ain't gonna hurt, but you be alright. Get hit by a car, that could be it. So I think absolutely, and that yeah, as a kid, that must be absolutely amazing just to play without interference from cars. Like, yeah, that's cool.
Houten
That's
has
dope.
a very wide variety of different housing types. There were some places that had single family homes, but I saw many small apartment buildings and lots of townhouses as well. In North America, urban planners refer to the missing middle because in many municipalities, it has been illegal to build these kind of homes for decades, which is why it's common to see entire neighborhoods made up of only single family homes, or sometimes single family homes with giant apartment buildings nearby, but nothing in between.
I get that.
Having a wide range of housing types is incredibly important for a stable community because it provides different housing at different price points, but also because people's housing needs change over their lifetime. When
Agreed.
someone is renting their first home by themselves, they'll prefer a small home or apartment, but then may want to move somewhere bigger when they have a family.
Yes.
And when their kids move out, they may want to downsize to something smaller.
Yes.
Having different housing options in the same neighborhood means that people can move to whatever type of home they prefer
Mm,
without having to leave their friends and their community behind.
great point. Great point.
But even the places with single family homes were so much nicer than a typical car centric suburb. I saw
Really?
these houses, which were built
Oh,
right off the cycling path, which is really
they are
nice,
very
right?
nice.
These
Absolutely.
single family homes in Houghton aren't built on wide suburban streets with useless front lawns. So people here can live in single family homes and still have nearly car free streets that are safe enough for children to cycle on and still be just a short bike ride to a train station as well.
That's an
The
absolute
majority of
blessing.
streets in Houghton are bicycle streets. These are streets where cyclists come first and cars are considered guests. Now, there are a lot of cities that build shared streets, but they often don't work very well and they create a lot of conflict between drivers and people
Mm,
cycling.
I can
The
imagine.
reason they work
I
so
can
well here is
imagine.
because car volumes and car speeds are
Yeah,
extremely low due to the Autolua design of Houghton. For example, this is a shared street for bicycles and cars, but the only people who will ever drive here are the people who live in these houses. And since there are
yeah,
only about 10 houses along this street, and because most destinations are easier to reach by walking or cycling, it is very rare that there will be anybody driving
yeah.
here.
I just feel like if I were to live in the city, yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, you just cycling and walking is just so much more easy to get around. I think the reason I'd have a car was if I was to go out of the city to travel to another city. But then you got public transportation, you got metros that can do all that for you. But yeah, you don't need a car here. It's
Like most
unnecessary.
streets in Houghton,
It's
this
almost a
street is
hindrance in
designed
this
so that the
town.
people living here can own cars and can drive here, but this is not a street for through traffic. Anybody driving a car here cannot go in this direction because it is blocked off, only allowing bicycles to go through. So drivers need to take an indirect route via the ring road. Blocking off cars like this is called a modal filter, and they are common all over the Netherlands. And they really should be commonplace in absolutely every city everywhere to prevent car traffic from consuming every street.
I
They
get
also
that.
allow anybody cycling to take the fastest and most direct route, which is how it can be faster to cycle here than to
And
drive.
I get that.
This is how Houten has designed a place that is accessible by car if you need to drive, but cars are so unnecessary for most trips that most people don't drive very often. Emergency vehicles can, of course, use routes that are normally off limits to cars, and they can also drive on the bicycle paths if necessary, which is common in other parts of the Netherlands too, and I've talked about that in a previous video. In addition to restricting car traffic, Houten has also been designed to make cycling as fast and efficient as possible. There are no traffic lights for people cycling, which makes sense because bicycles don't need traffic lights. And at every intersection with cars, bicycles are given priority, so people cycling almost never need to stop, making their journey even faster.
Bicycles, they living a good
Encounters
life
with
in the
cars are
Netherlands.
extremely rare in Houten because a key design goal was to separate bicycle traffic and car traffic as much as possible. Every
Doing a
time a
great job
bicycle
of
path
it.
crosses the ring road, people cycling go under the road. In this part of the town, there's a roundabout on the ring road with a lot of motor vehicle traffic.
Hmm.
But people cycling bypass this entirely.
See,
Underneath the
come
roundabout is a
on.
kind of roundabout for bicycles. So, people cycling can go in either direction, of course, because bicycles are not cars, and so bicycle infrastructure should be designed differently, not just as a mini version of car
That is a
infrastructure.
very good point. That is a
These
very
paths
valid
connect to the
point.
linear parks that link neighborhoods together, which makes it possible to cycle to many destinations within Houten without ever interacting with any cars at all.
Hmm.
In my research, this intersection came up as one of the most dangerous intersections in all of Houten. Which, okay, there are a few issues here from a Dutch cycling point of view, but wow. I wish we could all live somewhere where this was as dangerous as it gets, which is why you see children, even young children, cycling everywhere in Houten.
I can get that. I
The
can
design of this town
absolutely get
allows a
that.
high level of independence for kids, allowing them to go wherever they want without needing their
And let
parents
them
to take
go.
them there.
That's where I'm at. Wherever that park's at, that's where I'm at. Getting absolute buckets. Getting absolute buckets. Love playing basketball. I'll definitely be at that park hooping.
This is how little kids get from school to daycare. The younger
I
kids are
love
in the child
that.
carrier, and the older ones can start to ride
I
independently on their own bicycles,
absolutely
which is
freaking
actually
love
fairly
that.
common in the Netherlands.
That's
If you can't understand
awesome.
how this is a better way for children to grow up compared to being shuttled around in cars, I don't know what to tell you.
Leave the cars at home,
Now,
bro.
Houten is mostly residential,
I
so
love
while the
this.
majority of trips within town are taken by bicycle, a lot of residents work in other cities and often drive to get there. Though there are some areas with commercial and light industrial buildings that are still accessible by bicycle just outside of the ring road. This commercial area is interesting though because it's inside the ring road and still clearly accessible by car. But the back of the buildings face the bicycle paths so that people can arrive here by bicycle as well. So anybody cycling can come off of this bicycle path and immediately access these buildings without having to go on the roads. In Houten, I saw dozens of businesses that had parking lots for cars, but were also right next to the separated cycling network too, making it an easy choice to cycle there. This is another business park
Dang.
within the ring road. Next to the buildings, there is free surface parking for employees and visitors. But these parking lots and the roads connecting them are so much smaller than in car centric places.
I get
Because
that.
many people can walk, cycle, or take public transit here, the car infrastructure can be so much smaller. In a previous video, I talked about how much I hated working in business parks in Canada, and I compared them to this one near the Amsterdam airport.
Huh.
And while smaller than those examples, this business park in Houten is probably the nicest one I've ever seen. These
I
buildings are
respect
in the
that.
first phase of development, the part built in the 1980s. The second phase, built in the early 2000s, has a much wider range of different architectural styles,
Look at the
some of which are
beauty.
very creative, like here on this lake,
Dang.
where there are these colorful houses modeled after a Scandinavian fishing village, and a bicycle path that goes over the lake and past the houses. The train station here is called Castellum, and it's modeled after a Roman castle complete with a moat and bridges going in and out. There was no actual Roman castle here, but it was designed with a nod to the Roman settlements that used to be in this area. These
This
places
is
are definitely
amazing.
strange, but I think it makes the town more interesting, and they provide landmarks and meeting places that would be known to everyone, which is nice.
Yeah.
The old village area is also interesting because it feels so different. The streets here feel more like a typical Dutch town, and there's a lot more car traffic here than most other parts of Houten. But the old town square is still enjoyable, and it's nice that they kept some of the history of the original village. There is so much more that went into the design of Houten that I'm only just scratching the surface in this video. If you'd like to learn more, a group of residents are working with the original designer to research, write, and translate a book about the history and design of Houten that will be
Yo,
available in both Dutch and English.
that's so freaking cool. I think Houten is, from so far what I've seen of it, is absolutely beautiful and absolutely incredible city that is very well designed. I would absolutely love to be in a city where you could get everywhere you needed to go by bike or by foot, and you didn't have to worry about cars, like being hit by cars or them being a nuisance in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Y'all know what I
They're
mean.
still short of their funding goal, though, so if you're interested in helping out, I'll leave a link in the description. In general, the people I've talked to who live in Houten love living here, and many of them were happy to help me with the information and research for this
I love
video.
that.
So, if
That's
Houten is
awesome.
so great, why would anybody ever leave?
Hmm.
Well,
It's a
I've
fair
also
question.
talked to several people who used to live here, and they all told me the same thing. It's too boring. But of course it
Mm.
is. It's a mostly residential town, and there are
Oh,
lots of people who like it that way.
yeah.
Not everybody
So it's
wants
an
to live in
older
a big,
town.
busy city, and Houten is a place that's quiet and peaceful while still having a sustainable density, strong community, and a great environment for kids to grow up in.
Yeah, that's my kind of town.
Also, boring is relative, right? It's one thing to
True.
live in a town that has
True.
several things to do, but not all of the amenities of a city, while also
True.
having regular train service that will take you somewhere more lively when you want it,
True.
compared to living in
True.
suburbia, where you are literally trapped in your local neighborhood unless you have a car. And the most
Oh yeah.
interesting thing you're ever likely to do is to decide which chain restaurant you want to eat at this week. I love living in big cities, so I could never live in
Okay.
Houten, but I can
Yeah,
absolutely see the appeal for people who don't want to live in a city.
I get that.
But as great as Houten may be, it's not perfect. For example, I think the public transit could definitely be better.
Mm.
As I mentioned earlier, Houten has 2 train stations, and it's designed in such a way that every resident is within a 20-minute walk or a 5-minute bike ride
That
to at least
is
one of them,
so
which is
nice,
great.
dog. That is
And it is
amazing.
serviced by several
That's
regional bus
amazing.
lines that go to other nearby cities. But since the buses are motor vehicles and mostly constrained to the ring road, it means that buses also have to take the long
Oh
way around,
dang.
just like the cars. Bus stops are also very far apart, and
Ooh,
some bus routes only come every 30 minutes or so. So I think that Houten could benefit from more buses or even a tram line that connects to destinations within the town
something.
without always having to use the ring road. For
Something.
example, the neighboring towns are connected to Utrecht by LRT with several stops
Oh
within the
wow.
town.
Mm.
Technically, Houten used to have a tram, but it was really more of a rail shuttle between the main train station and Castellum, which was shut down once Castellum was converted to a train station.
Okay.
In general, the area around
Okay.
Castellum station feels more cramped and less inviting than the area around the main train station. And I really don't like how they put the entrance to the parking for the square here. So the area under the train station needs to be accessible by cars and feels very barren and uninviting. But these are minor complaints, and for the most part, the town is designed exceptionally well. There is one thing I absolutely hate about Houten, though, and that's the mopeds in the bicycle paths. This is a problem in the majority of the Netherlands, so this isn't something that's unique to Houten. And the history of why mopeds are allowed in the bicycle path is complicated, as are the rules around the different kinds of mopeds and microcars and what's allowed
You know,
where.
and
So
I was gonna ask if like any kind of electric. I know y'all have electric cars and stuff, but I was gonna ask like a moped, like something like that. That's very interesting that that is allowed though. Like, but I get why it would be. I do understand why it would be.
I'm going to have to save that for a future video. But I think the mopeds are particularly egregious here in Houten because otherwise the bicycle paths are almost perfect. Amsterdam banned mopeds from most bicycle paths in 2019, and while it
Really?
hasn't completely solved the problem, it has become much, much better since then. If Houten
Wow.
is not willing to do the same, then at the very least, they need to set up average speed cameras on popular bicycle routes. Because it is absolutely ridiculous how fast people ride these motor scooters, even when there are little kids and elderly people
Oh,
around.
I get that.
But mopeds aside, when I returned to Amsterdam in the evening, it was really obvious just how much worse it was to cycle here than it was in Houten. After
Mm.
only a day, I had already become very used to the fantastic cycling infrastructure. The tree
That
lined bicycle paths connected to Autolua streets, the total lack of traffic lights, and the sound of children playing in the distance.
Oh,
I often see
wow.
Americans claiming that European cities are the way they are because they're old and designed before the car. This is an absurd claim, of course, because there are lots of great places in Europe that were built long after cars existed. And
And
almost
that's
every US and
I
Canadian
really honestly would have thought that's why I thought that a lot of European countries were built the way they are because they were around before the car. So that is why I honestly had that same thought. So, but he is right in saying there's a lot of places that have built after the car was made and they're still not as car centric as the United States.
city was built before cars anyway, with a central train station and walkable neighborhoods connected by streetcar lines. As I've said many times before, North American cities weren't built for the car, they were bulldozed for the car.
I get that.
But it is true that it used to be possible to build great walkable places without designing them at all, because it was the natural outcome of building anything. The term walkable cities didn't exist because what other kind of city would you build? But this fundamentally
I get
changed when
that.
cars became commonplace. Cars are very large and take up lots of space, so designing for cars results in places that are not built to a human scale. Designing car friendly infrastructure necessitates pushing places farther apart to the point where they're not accessible
True.
by walking and difficult to cover by public transit.
True.
Cars are dangerous, so they discourage travel by bicycle or other methods because people don't feel safe outside of a car.
Agreed.
And cars create a lot of local air and noise pollution too, which makes places unpleasant to be in. And if left unchecked, cars will consume all of the space available, leaving no room for anything else. All of this means that it isn't possible to build great urban places for people anymore unless you design them in a way that restricts cars. And I think more than anything, this is what we should learn from Houten. Cars are a reality and they're not going away, but also, motor vehicles are actually pretty useful sometimes. I think delivery vans are convenient for carrying bulky things,
There you
and I
go.
think that fire trucks are
There
a
you
pretty
go.
neat invention. I know, a burning hot take there. Somebody call the fire department.
Burning hot take there.
Technically, the municipality of Houten includes a lot of rural land, but the population density within the ring road is over 5,000 people per square kilometer.
Oh,
That's anywhere from 4 to 10 times as dense as a typical car dependent suburb. And yet, it's much nicer than any car dependent suburb I've ever seen by a very wide margin.
that's kind of crazy.
And while Houten works well on its own as a satellite town, there's no reason why this basic design couldn't work in any city anywhere. If a city built a metro line with stations 2 kilometers apart and put a Houten style ring around every station, it could provide high density suburban housing while also being a nicer place to live than any other suburb ever built.
Yeah.
The Netherlands needs to build more housing again, and Houten is currently drawing up plans for its next phase of development. There are discussions happening now about the future of this space on the east side of town. The current proposals seem promising, but the original designers are no longer involved, so it will be up to a new generation of planners to continue their legacy. And urban planners everywhere should be watching this closely and studying what elements made this town internationally famous in the first place. Because the world would be so much better if every town and suburb was designed as well as Houten.
I got you. I got you.
Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to support this channel and get
I do feel like the way how it's designed is absolutely incredible for the citizens, right? Like you said, for those families where their kids can go right outside in that space and have a good time, to be able to get to anywhere by bike, by walking is absolutely beneficial as well as good for you. Healthy way to get around as well. And you're not putting all these emissions and everything into the air either. And so I think Holland's a greatly designed city. I would want to get around by car and just see how it is. I mean, get around by bike and foot and see how it is because I've only experienced really the car. Before I had a car, I did walk, but not like I'd probably walk to get places in the Netherlands. So let me know what you guys think. I enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up.